Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education, and I'm your host, Tim Bogatz. I'm really excited for today's episode. I'm going to be talking with Nadia Fernandez-Castillo. Nadia is a teacher from the Miami-Dade County Schools, and she had a wonderful presentation at the Winter Art Ed Now conference all about how she designs her curriculum and how she gets some incredible work from her students. People loved her ideas. They were wowed by the work that her students are doing, and I'm really excited that she's going to give us some insights into what's happening in her classroom. Nadia's program blends kind of a modern version of the Atelier model with a spiral curriculum that is designed specifically for her middle school learners. But I think there are lessons to be learned for everyone, no matter what level you teach, about balancing voice and choice with skill development and how you bring out the most of your students' talent. So I want to talk to her about how she structures her curriculum, how she uses those foundational skills and repetition and sketchbook practice to kind of help students build their confidence and their technical ability, but also still give them room for creativity and voice and choice. So we're going to dive into that balance between structure and choice and talk about why that, artistic ability comes from practice rather than just talent, and how we can build a stronger curriculum without feeling like you necessarily have to overhaul everything that you're doing at once. It can be a slow build. So there's a lot to talk to. As I said, I'm thrilled to have Nadia on, and she is ready to go. So let me bring her on now. Okay, Nadia, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm very well. People loved your presentation at the Art Ed Now conference in February, and we are really, really excited to have you on the podcast now. But for people who did not see you at the conference, can you give us a quick introduction? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your teaching?
Sure. Sure. My name is Nadia Fernandez-Castillo, and I've been teaching for about 23 years in the Miami-Dade County School District down in Miami, Florida. I've taught elementary school for about 12 years, and then I switched over to middle school, and I've been there ever since.
All right, very cool. And I always need to ask middle school teachers, like, what do you love about middle school? Because it's something I could never do. Like listeners to this podcast know my wife teaches middle school. She loves it. I've never understood it. So, like, what do you love about middle schoolers?
It's so funny because I usually get two reactions when I tell people that I teach middle school. And it's funny you asked that question. It's either why, and the other one is, oh my God, you're a saint. I think with middle school, it's interesting because I tend to be a pretty dry personality in terms of humor. My humor's
Okay.
dry. My humor's a little sarcastic, and the kids get it. The kids kind of they appreciate that. So I don't know. It's just maybe I'm like immature. Like I like their humor. I think it's silly and no, but really to be serious, I think when we're working with kids that age, they're very impressionable.
Yeah.
And what I remember in elementary school was you could draw a stick figure on the board and the kids would be like, "Oh my God, you're an
Right.
artist!"
Yes.
And that was good for the ego.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. I wanted this back and
Mhm.
forth.
Yeah.
And when I had the opportunity to change to middle school and I saw what it was really about, which was they're still young enough to kind of mold.
Right.
They're too old to baby,
Yeah.
and you're kind of preparing them for high school and for what's coming. And I saw that as an opportunity of, wow, I could really change someone's mind about art
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
stage. And that's what just drove me from that point on. And I've been doing this for, 12 years now.
No, I love that. I
Yeah.
love hearing that. So now I wanted to bring you on because I wanted to just get some insight into your program. You run an incredible program where you are, and you kind of frame your program around the modern version of the Atelier model.
Yeah.
And by the way, for people listening, we did an entire episode on what is an atelier. So I'll link to that in the show notes if people need that background. But I want to ask you, like, what first drew you to that idea, and how did you evolve it, or how did you make it into something that works for a middle school setting?
Wow. Well, the atelier model was something that I was introduced to while I was an undergrad
Hmm.
at FIU, at Florida International University, years ago, many moons ago. And my professor at the time was classically trained. He was very much into realism and portraiture and landscape, oil painting. I was introduced to oil painting with him. And at the time, there was this kind of like push towards conceptual art and modern understanding of art and creation, where at least at where I was, there wasn't that big emphasis on the basic realism skills
Right.
that would make an artist a better conceptual artist. And it was kind of frowned upon. And that program began through, funnily enough, the art education undergrad program. He brought that in,
Okay.
train teachers. And since then, he's developed it, and it's become just the way that it's been easier for me to learn basic art skills through that master versus trainee style that the atelier helps to bring those two factors together. So
Hmm.
the reason why I brought it in was because when I first started in middle school, I was floundering.
Okay.
I don't know what to do. These kids have no idea what they're doing. And some of them are
Yeah.
from, lower SES where the budgets don't allow for an art teacher in an elementary school. And they're
Hmm.
absolutely clueless. I'm like, I just can't bring them into, let's do a collage, let's do a landscape without them understanding very basics in the elements of art and principles. So I had to bring it back to basics, and I saw the atelier model. I'm like, wait, why don't I just do what my professor was doing, and let's do it this way. So I tried it at the first middle school that I was at for about 2 years, and I saw that it had something, but I hadn't really defined it. And then when
Okay.
I got to where I am currently, I was able to really refine it to where it's just seamless. Like I start with line and we just go from there, and we go to, now we're going to talk about color theory, and now we're going to talk about space, and it just starts to build. Sometimes we go back, and that's why we mentioned at the conference we were talking about that spiral curriculum, where sometimes you go backwards and sometimes you go forward.
Right. Right.
So like for now, for example, we just finished oil pastel, but now we're going back to line. We're learning about pattern, and
Okay.
we're doing Zentangles and Zendoodles, and we're learning all about that. And we're taking what we already learned prior, and we're just attaching it to something new.
Mm. Okay, so let me ask you, and when you bring in, the idea of a spiral curriculum, for teachers who are maybe just starting, or if they're unfamiliar with these ideas, they hear things like atelier model or a spiral curriculum, and immediately they're feeling overwhelmed. Like what would you say to them to kind of help them reframe those ideas, I guess, or look at those things or make them more approachable rather than something intimidating?
I was watching sports with my husband, watching football or something, and I'm like, wait a minute, these guys, they do drills every day,
Yeah.
and they practice every day. And these little league kids practice every day. So I was like, why? I took a page out of athletics and I said, why don't we just practice every day and practice
Mm,
things? So when you, if you want to break it down to the very basics, it's um just have them repeat things. until it becomes rote and it just becomes something very natural for them, where they take the pencil and they are able to just draw what they see. And trust me, getting that block of how do I draw XYZ to change to how would I reframe or lay out this composition.
Hmm.
Changing that vocabulary starts with the basics. So I took a page out of athletics and I said, if you want to make it really simple, it's just um, a spiral curriculum is just basically starting with something, moving on to something else, and then possibly going back and reviewing something that was already done in order to then move 10 paces forward.
Right.
And then with the Atelier model, it's just all it is drilling. All it is just let's keep practicing. Let's keep practicing those skills. And it's funny because one of the questions that I get from my students, especially in middle school, is they start comparing themselves, obviously, because it's middle school, and they're looking at the other person, and there might be a handful of kids that are into anime and they're drawing all these
Yeah.
characters. They have
Okay.
their OCs, and they're doing all these great things. And they're like, how come they can do it? And I just turn around and says, do you draw every day? Yes, I do draw every day. That's why.
Hmm.
Because there's no such thing as giftedness. There's no such thing as talent. Everything's learned.
Yeah. Okay, so can we dive into that a little bit
Yeah.
more? Just the idea of repetitions and drills, because like you said, it's all about the sequence, all about the practice. So can you talk more about that, like about how, a clear skill progression, and the way you develop that? Can you talk about how that's done and how that kind of changes the way students see themselves as artists?
That's a good question. And I think that if we start with the very, like I said, the very basics and get them really confident with just that repetition, once they repeat it enough, and like in athletics, they make that goal when they're playing soccer and they feel confidence, they're going to want to keep on going. Now that they see like, oh, this is not as hard as I thought it was. This is not some
Mm,
strange formula. This is just learning how to observe, learning how to see differently, learning how to see darks and lights and tones and patterns and values and I think it's really important. Like I played piano too for like 13 years.
yeah.
And I remember my piano teacher, I would want to if anyone knows about music, there's dynamics in the composition. You'll have something that
Right.
wants you to play louder, wants you to play
Yep.
softer,
Yep.
faster, slower. And I remember trying to not do what was written.
Okay.
I want to do, but I want to do it this way. And my piano teacher turned around and says, "Listen, learn how to do it the way the composer wrote it. When you become the master, then you break your rules."
Mm.
And that's what I adhere to that in the classroom. So when I teach, I have them wait. I know you want to do all of this, but in order to do all of this, we need to do this first. And it's just slowing them down so that when they see that what I'm telling them is actually is the product that they're getting, they're like, oh. And then I love it because they get a weekly sketchbook homework, and usually I alternate between something that's observation, and then the next week it's something using their imagination or something that they
Right.
come up
Right.
with on their own. So they don't get bogged down with all that observation because that can get also very stagnant. So once they do, like I'll tell them draw a spoon for the week, take a spoon out, put it in front of
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
draw it. Um, Sometimes that light bulb turns on with the first one. Sometimes it happens with, draw cups and glasses or draw this or that. But it's really great to see them when I'm checking their sketchbooks every week because of that practice and because of those basics. They come back and I'm like, look. And I'm like,
Mm.
this is fantastic. And you see their confidence just like, oh, that's it. That's it. And then from that point on, they just like speed right through.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more with you about again just kind of the setup here because I know a lot of teachers are afraid that if you're spending too much time on observation, too much time on learning those skills at repetition, then you lose out on student voice, you lose out on some of the choices that they can
Mhm.
make. Can you talk more about how just the idea of choice is incorporated in your classroom? Like how do you balance giving students freedom and making space for their voice without them feeling lost or feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah. When I first got introduced to Choice Art Room, I saw the different models that were offered, and some of them were modified, some were completely choice. And for some of our teachers that works.
Hmm.
I tried it, absolute fail. So I was like, okay, I still want personal voice. And I
Yes.
think that's so important. And I'm not the type of art teacher. And again, if other art teachers are listening and they do it this way, I'm not putting it down. But I like to see each and every art student come through in their artwork. So to me, let's do an inspired Starry Night. It really doesn't give them an opportunity to really shine and really
Yeah.
have that opportunity to do what they want. So at the beginning, everything is really structured in my Art One class, and that's usually in my school. It's a mix of sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, depending, like if they have to get their fine art credit that year or not.
Hmm.
But it's mostly sixth grade, and they're coming from elementary school where it's touch and go, whether they have like a good
Yeah.
art teacher or not,
May
and
or may not have had art at
may or may
all.
not art at all, or had 35 minutes or 45 minutes of art per week, and then
Yeah.
sometimes it's canceled. So it's very not it doesn't work out most of the time. So when I bring these kids into Art One, it's very structured. However, the way that I balance that out, and I mentioned it before, when we do the sketchbook is a really big deal in my class, because that's where that repetition happens. That's where that practice, that those drills happen.
Okay.
So they alternate their sketchbook homework. They have a week to do their homework, because I really want them to spend time on it. And they start with an observation, and then the following week they do something imaginative, like create your own cereal box or create
Yeah.
your own superhero.
Yeah.
So we kind of keep it balanced that way. And once we're in class, if we go into a still life, for example, which is a perfect example of something that's in an atelier model, uh, I will have them choose what area of that still life they want to focus on. I teach them how to make their own viewfinders so that they're not using their phones. So I have them use the viewfinder, they cut one out, they do it. I want you to think about composition. What do you want to include? So that you don't get overwhelmed. So what that ends up happening is I get 30 still lifes that are different.
Yeah.
So it could be something that simple. And then once they get more into the school year, for example, now again, they're doing their Zentangle, but we're incorporating a collage. So they have to cut out an object or a person, put it down, and then they're drawing out their Zentangle.
Okay.
They get to pick what they want to cut out. They get to pick where they place it. They get to pick the Zentangles they want to add. So they always start to get these little bits of choice going. So by the time that the school year ends, you have a portfolio of, if we're lucky, about 6 or 7 pieces that show 6, 7. Sorry, I had to. It's middle
Gonna
school.
say you're a middle school teacher,
That
so
I am. That if that didn't give it away, um, I had to. But if they'll have enough in their portfolio that gives them a wide range of these great individual pieces of artwork. And then once they do, if they decide to go into the advanced levels, into R2 or R3, that becomes the real atelier model of where I teach them a demo. They watch me, they do it alongside me, and I go around and I help them. But they really
Mhm.
do get to pick what they want to do or how they want to do it. So I
Okay.
always usually let them pick their media, for example.
Yeah.
My R2s will say, okay, you have these 3 choices. My R3s, you have these 5 choices,
Hmm.
because you want to give them something to look forward to. If I tell the
Right.
R2s
Right.
everybody gets to do the same thing, oh, next year I get to do that.
Yeah.
So it gets them motivated. So that's really how the choice happens. It's gradual, but I always try to get it in there, especially at the very beginning, so that they are motivated to keep going and trying new things.
Okay, very cool. I like that a lot. I
Mhm.
think that's a great way to kind of go through things and go about things. And like you said, it's different for everybody, the amount of choice that they want to provide and how they do it. But
Yeah.
I appreciate hearing what works for you. Okay, and then just one last question for you.
Mhm.
If there's a new art teacher listening to this or somebody who's looking to revamp things and they want to start with a spiraled curriculum or something different, like what is maybe a small kind of realistic first step they could take toward building that type of curriculum without realizing they don't have to overhaul everything all at once? Like how do we start, and then after we take those starting steps, like how do we build from there?
I think start from the basics. I always say sketchbook, sketchbook, sketchbook. I
Okay.
think that's the most important thing because I trained my students early on that the sketchbook is your brain on the paper. It's
Yeah.
your whole process. And too often the kids that start off in art one, they're so used to just putting a big X on something that they don't like or tearing out the piece of
Mm,
paper out of the sketchbook and
yeah.
just giving that importance to your thoughts, even if they're bad, even if they're good. Everything has a process. This is how you get to the end. But for a new teacher, I would say keep it very simple. Create
Hmm.
a sketchbook, have them do a weekly sketchbook homework, have them always do thumbnails and sketches and mini versions of whatever they're going to create so that
Okay.
they learn to prize the materials and they just
Yeah.
don't have another piece of paper. So you want to get them to a place where they're appreciating the process itself. But for also for a new teacher, I would say um, you don't have to overcomplicate it. It's not, it really isn't. It was just a way for me, honestly, it was a way for me to organize my thoughts because like I said when I first started it was chaos. I was like
Yeah.
I don't, what do I do? And
I
in
was
some
gonna
ways
say I know the feeling. A lot of people know that feeling.
that's even worse for a new teacher just to come
Yeah.
into a place and like okay here do whatever
Hmm.
and they're like
Hmm.
I don't know about you but my state has standards
Right.
but don't have like a set curriculum.
Yeah.
So you go in there and it's like, here, you're gonna teach photography. And I'm like, okay, is there something? No,
No,
just do
good
whatever.
luck.
So coming in with something on a piece of paper, it really is just like almost like a yearly unit. And you
Mm,
can just make a square on a piece of paper and just say, what do I want to teach? Do I want to divide this into my seven elements? Okay, let's do line, let's do space, let's do and do like that. What can I do for each one of these? And you start building. And it doesn't mean you have to stick to it. Something might happen, and we know that in teaching, a fire drill can derail everything in 15
absolutely.
minutes,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But I really think it's just it's not very complicated. It's what's the natural progression? Pencil,
Hmm.
okay. We're in dry media, move to color pencil. Okay,
Yep.
now we're covering color pencil and we're coloring color theory. We're covering that. So and then just build from that.
Yeah. I love it. No, you make it sound so easy. No, I think that's good. I
Um,
think that's excellent advice. All right, Nadia, thank you for joining me for sharing all of these ideas with us and just kind of talking through, how you build your program, how you build your curriculum. I think there's a lot to offer there, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
All right, thank you to Nadia for coming on. I really appreciated that entire conversation. I wanted to tell her thanks for sharing her insights and kind of walking us through how she builds such a thoughtful and structured program for her students. Now, I also want to do a quick plug before we go for the Designing Your Art Curriculum course from the Art of Education University. I've talked about that course on the podcast before. I've taken it. It helped me think through everything I was doing with the curriculum, helped me revamp what I was doing. And I loved how personal it was, how I could do work that was specific to me, specific to my classroom. And that's what I love about AOE grad courses. It's not just like a set of impersonal online activities. Like, you are doing work that fits you, that fits your classroom, and you are supported every step of the way by our faculty who are experts, providing feedback and guidance and encouragement. You're collaborating with other art teachers from across the country, and all of the ideas, all of the strategies enrich your own practice. So not only are you earning credit, you are getting better as a teacher and getting better as an artist. And you can find Designing Your Art Curriculum, all the other great courses at theartofeducation.edu/courses. Now, as we go here, I just want to give you a reminder that this all doesn't have to be done at once. I talked about it in the intro. Nadia talked about it toward the end of the interview here. You don't have to revamp or overhaul your curriculum all at once. Okay, you can start building small pieces of repetition and observation and sketchbook practice. And that's going to help students build confidence and develop their skills over time. And, you can take some advice from Nadia about how she can gradually introduce choice, and students can develop their own artistic voice over time without feeling overwhelmed. So if you want to learn more about what she does, about the Atelier model, about spiral curriculum design, or more about some of the strategies that Nadia talked about, we will have a bunch of resources for you in the show notes. And again, that Designing Your Art Curriculum course is a great option if you really want to dive in deep. And no matter what you take from this episode, I hope there's something that can help you help your students, whether that be a little bit more time on repetition, a little bit more observation, a little bit of practice, or a few more opportunities to give student voice. Whatever you take away, hopefully it'll be something that can help your students in the near future. Art Ed Radio is produced by The Art of Education with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. We hope it was helpful for you. And if you know someone else who might be helped with the information on this episode, we would love for you to share it with them. We also appreciate all of the ratings and reviews that listeners leave for us. So if you have a few seconds to give us a 5-star rating, or even leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen, we would love to see it. We appreciate all of our listeners, and we will talk to you again next week.